So of course, we're all trying to become masters of the draft board here for 2022 fantasy football. And today we're going to be doing just that. We're going to be taking another swing at the bat here, trying another draft strategy for our 2022 fantasy football leagues and giving you guys a good picture of exactly what you should be doing in your leagues at a specific pick. In just a few seconds here, I'll be diving into a live fantasy football draft with 11 other players with some cash on the line here and doing my best to paint the picture for how you guys want to approach your leagues this season. I post fantasy content every single day, and my sole goal is to help you guys crush your leagues this year and become better fantasy players. If that sounds good to you guys, make sure to drop down, leave a like on today's episode, and click that subscribe button, turn the bell on, and make sure you never miss another episode. With that being said, I'll see you in the draft. Alrighty, so here we go, everybody. We are in the draft board here on Underdog Fantasy. The draft kicks off in just about 10 seconds. Unfortunately, for the second day in a row, I'll be posting a draft from the 1.2 position. If you didn't see yesterday's draft, obviously you can watch today's video or you can go check that one out. We went Christian McCaffrey with that first pick in that last video. I think I'm going to go that same route here. I think that the early approach here is probably... Last video, I didn't love how the draft played out. Let's just say that. I ended up going Christian McCaffrey in the first round here. I came back and took Mark Andrews. I don't mean to spoil that entire draft, but then in the third round, I took Mike Williams. So I addressed 3 different position groups in my top 3 draft choices. And I didn't hate how the draft turned out, but I felt this pressing need that since I didn't address running back again on that comeback, that with the risk of Christian McCaffrey being a player who's only played in 10 contests total in the last 2 years, that is an issue, and it gives me some major nerves and some major reason for concern when I approached that team and evaluated the roster. I felt myself needing to draft more and more running backs to just have some salvageable production value because I didn't want to find myself in a position mid-season if CMC goes down that I can find myself in a pickle. I've said this many, many times throughout this offseason. I am going to suck it up and draft Christian McCaffrey at the 2nd overall pick. It sucks. It's not my favorite thing to do, but he does have the highest ceiling in fantasy football at the running back position. You can't discount that. You can't deny that. I feel insanely optimistic about his ceiling for fantasy this year. And ultimately, I would feel, I kind of contemplated right at the top of the board going this route where I was going to draft Cooper Kupp and then come back and in the late 2nd and early 3rd round, maybe try and grab a Nick Chubb or one of those other running backs, reach really high for a James Conner. It wouldn't be a great fit for me based off of draft value. That's ultimately why I decided not to go that route. James Conner's ADP is the 3.9 overall pick. Nick Chubb's is the 3.1 overall. So both of those players would be a slight reach. Again, I'd be tying them with Cooper Kupp. And at the end of the day, in this best ball format, the reason I opted not to go that route is because I don't love Nick Chubb's PPR value and upside. And also, with this, again, best ball format, I want to maximize my ceiling. I want to play this league as if I'm trying to win the league. I don't want to play for what if this happens to CMC, what if this player is not available. I want to compile the best roster of players, whether that's having elite depth or having a really, really strong position group. However that looks at the end of today's video, I want to build the best group of fantasy players as opposed to playing things on the cautious side in the event of a CMC injury. Again, I love that PPR value, 29.3 fantasy points per game in a single season back in 2019 when he finished as the RB1. To put that in reference and in perspective, that was about 7.5, 8 points higher per game than Jonathan Taylor's RB1 finish this year. So you take 75% of what CMC did that year, that netted you the top running back finish here this past season in 2021, and I'd be very, very happy with that. So I will say the one move I plan to make here is I do want to walk away with at least one running back on this bend. We'll see who falls to us here. Right now, Javonte Williams is someone who I feel at this late 2nd round pick. His ADP is actually the 211, which is the position I'll be picking with here. You see Mark Andrews goes quite a bit higher than where I got him at last draft. I would love Javonte because I think he's the perfect pairing with CMC here. I get a player who I think has a really great fantasy floor. Thank you for drafting Leonard Fournette there. He's probably not going to make it to me because both of these teams have not addressed the running back position unless for some reason, all right, they go 2 wide receiver there. I mean, Alvin Kamara or James Conner could save me here. I think that Javonte is a perfect match, though. For a high floor player, his ceiling, yes. That could not have played out better for me. I am extremely stoked. I do want to kind of pop up the board for 2 seconds here so you guys can see the options I have on the table. I will be drafting Javonte Williams here. The reasoning for that, again, I've kind of gotten halfway there on my take, but then I got excited, so I ended up not finishing my analysis here. Javonte Williams is a player who has top 3 overall upside at this running back position, and I'm liking this start to the draft a lot more. Now, some of this ended up being luck here. Some of this ended up being just how other players fell on the table for me. T. Higgins, my wide receiver 10, is going to end up being my wide receiver 1 on this team. I also have the option of Keenan Allen, my wide receiver 11, and Michael Pittman, my wide receiver 14 right now. So we're going to go T. Higgins, and I feel it says I missed my pick. All right, T. Higgins was my auto pick anyways. Worked out perfect for us there. That was about to really rain on my parade. I really like how this played out again. A lot of it was luck. A lot of it was those 2 teams there at the 1-3 and 1-4 deciding to go double down on the wide receiver position. Personally, not my favorite strategy in the world. I do feel really good now and set up for a position where I can maybe approach the 2 hero RB, or the double hero RB draft strategy. I have my 2 surefire locks at the RB1 and 2 positions, and I feel very, very comfortable with that. Don't worry, you guys. I know I've gotten away from the point of Javonte Williams a few times now. We'll make our way back there. We've got quite a bit of time up until now, until that next pick. So let's just talk about it here. Javonte Williams for me, I said it about 900 times already, but is that perfect pairing for Christian McCaffrey if you get lucky enough for him to fall back to you after selecting CMC at the 1-2 pick? Javonte comes back to me at his ADP price at the 211 draft position. For me, as a talent, as far as Javonte Williams, the player goes, has all the requisite skills to be the RB1 overall in fantasy. However, the situation has not set him up to look like that's exactly his outlook this season. Javonte still has to, what looks like, share some opportunity with Melvin Gordon, who was re-signed by Denver, brought back into this offense, and that's really why Javonte's ADP is so discounted. Had Melvin Gordon headed elsewhere, signed with a different organization, I promise you Javonte Williams would be a first-round draft pick this year. From the elevation of offensive ceiling in Denver, just simply from bringing in Russell Wilson, to the fact that he has a workhorse skill set. In today's day and age, the second-round draft capital that Denver invested into him in 2021's draft, that's premier draft capital for running backs these days. This past season here, or the 2022 draft that just took place, Breece Hall in the second round was the first running back to go off the board. So as we see NFL teams transition away from picking running backs in the first, we did have Najee and Travis Etienne in 2020, but still you kind of understand the point here. In 2021, that was not the 2020 draft. The 2020 draft was absolutely loaded. Still, the point is that is premier draft capital investment from an NFL franchise into the running back position here. So along with that comes pass catching value, the size of a true workhorse running back, a 220-pound frame, a guy who can stand up to physicality. It has the body armor to be able to endure a high carry count because obviously he's not frail. He's not going to be getting super banged up with each of those touches. He's almost the opposite of Christian McCaffrey. CMC is a 205-pound player who's starting to have soft tissue issues. Yes, he has a fancy dream skill set, is a guy who, again, had one of those astronomical fantasy finishes at 29.3 fantasy points per game. But Javonte, for me, is that more floor stabilizing piece. I think he'll have a good amount of goal line carries, even if he has to, cough up some of those to Melvin Gordon. I think he'll still be involved in the passing game. He really flourished and shined in those games, where he didn't have to have Melvin on the field, especially the Kansas City game from his rookie season pops out to me and is immediately there in my brain. We just saw exactly who he can be as a player. So then T. Higgins is my wide receiver 10. He's basically a high floor wide receiver 1, not a guy that really gets you super excited there, but is definitely somebody that I feel comfortable with holding down the fort as my first wide receiver drafted off the table. Last time we opted to go the route of Mike Williams, trying to compensate for some upside if CMC were to go down. Again, wasn't my favorite start to the draft. I don't like the 1-2 position at all this year. The 1-7 can be pretty brutal as well. Yeah, Jamar Chase, Mark Andrews, Zeke, and Terry McLaurin in a best ball format wouldn't be my favorite go about things, but wow, really like what that team did there at the 1-6, getting Debo as their wide receiver 1 and 3 potential top 12 RBs. Connor is my RB11, Hall is my RB15, Austin Eckler, I can't believe went behind Dalvin Cook. Interesting take there from that group. So we are on the clock here. We have the option of Deontay Johnson or Jerry Jeudy. We do have some breaking news, at least at the time of recording this episode. Tim Patrick, the wide receiver 3 for Denver, has actually torn his ACL, so he's going to be out for the year. I do have Deontay Johnson ranked higher than Jerry Jeudy. I don't know how that injury affects the situation here. I would be more bummed if I missed out on a share of Jerry Jeudy, despite the fact that he's already my most owned player in fantasy this year. I think that because this is best ball, there might be a chance Deontay falls down to me here. I do think that that injury is somewhat fantasy relevant. This is a roughly Jerry Jeudy's ADP as well. His ADP is 412, so I just didn't want to miss the ball there. I should pay attention. Brandon Cooks and Deontay Johnson are on the table. I'd be happy with either of those players, and actually I'm going to have my pick of the two. So it looks like I'm going to be taking Deontay Johnson here. The other thing I don't love about this draft position is it's just a little early for me to draft Juju Smith-Schuster. I am a lot higher on Deontay than ADP is. ADP has him right now as the wide receiver 22 here on Underdog, and I will take him here. So I really like our top 3 receivers here. I think there's a lot of potential. I think we've got some nice floor value in T and Deontay Johnson. I think Jerry Jeudy elevates that ceiling value. Again, back to that point I was talking about Tim Patrick, is that he was actually very fantasy relevant last year, and he was really slept on in a lot of games. I don't think that a lot of players really understood the flex value he brought to the table every week. He's a playmaker. And even with that garbage quarterback play, he was still producing fantasy relevant weeks. So I think that when you talk about him no longer being in this situation, I also like KJ Hamler. I'm not so sure as a player. I'm saying fantasy aside, I'm not really sure if he'll have much of a role outside of being a boom or bust low-end flex option this year. I don't think he's quite as refined as Tim Patrick was. Tim Patrick vertically after the catch, he had some really sneaky traits that were quite valuable to this Denver offense. But for a guy who, I should look exactly into Tim Patrick's analytics from last season, just because off the top of my head, I'm not super, they just, they don't come to mind as easily as some of these other players that I spend a lot more time studying, but just, the eye test and film analysis of Tim Patrick and that Broncos offense from last year was very, very impressive stuff. So I'm going to just kind of quickly cover here exactly what is being vacated from that offense. Again, and it's actually more significant than I thought. Again, not why, this is the reason why I didn't try to just kind of reference this stuff on the fly here. He actually had 85 targets last year, so not quite 100 or triple digits, anything massive like that. But as the number 3 option in an offense, yes, Jerry Jeudy missed time last year with his ankle injury and all that stuff, but the point being is this is a significant loss for the team, and for Jerry Jeudy, who I clearly think is the alpha in that offense. He out-targeted and out-produced Cortland Sutton in the games they played together last year. I believe that was 8 contests. Jerry is the guy, and when you can tell me that you're getting that QB bump from from Drew Lock to Russell Wilson, or I guess it was really Teddy B last season, it's still very, very significant for me. It's still something that I am very, very bullish on. So getting Jerry Jeudy and Deontay Johnson for me at those back-to-back picks was a very, very nice start for the first 5 rounds of today's video. I am drafting off of my phone so that you guys are able to see the draft board as things kind of unfold here. I would like to talk a little bit. I've been quite long-winded rather, in my breakdowns of my draft picks. Of course, I would like to kind of break down some of the other teams on the board here as well. Immediately, just some teams that really catch my attention. I automatically find this team here at the 1-6 as my top competitor in terms of, I'm drafting to win this league, as I said. Of course, that's the whole point. This team is very, very good, and it is very, very scary. Austin Eckler, James Conner, and Breece Hall are all players with top 12 upside at their position. Deebo Samuel and Jerry Jeudy, and Kyler Murray for that matter, are all players that could finish as ones at their position. This is a phenomenal team right here. The 6-7 overall draft pick to get a Kyler Murray is absolutely phenomenal draft value. If Jalen Hurts happens to slip his way down to me at the 6-11 here, I will draft him. I don't know if that'll be the case. One of the three teams drafting before us have a quarterback at this time. Again, looks like Reed Miller is the name here. Very, very impressed with how they have started off their draft building process here today. In the event that Jalen Hurts is not there, we have names at the wide receiver position from Allen Lazard to Adam Thielen, Elijah Moore, Javonte Smith, all players who are very, very interesting here. I would probably take my first shot at Adam Thielen. I'm trying to remember my rankings off the top of my head. I'm growing on Allen Lazard. I've drafted a lot of shares of him recently, so it looks like we're not going to get that Jalen Hurts share there. He actually goes as the second quarterback to this team here, Lamar and Jalen Hurts. It's probably likely that he will have a very, very high QB ceiling on a week-to-week basis. We could take Joe Burrow and pair him with T. Higgins. However, with me valuing Jamar Chase as more of the ceiling option in that offense, I don't, T. Higgins definitely has a ceiling as well. Let's not get that twisted, but I definitely see more value in drafting a stack with another player here. So maybe we'll see. I'm not going to say that just quite yet. I will take Adam Thielen here. I think this is a supreme value as a late 6th round pick. Someone who's actually seen his ADP dip a little bit, is a phenomenal red zone magnet for touchdown production from Kirk Cousins. I think we're just kind of missing the ball here. I think he also gets kind of a bad rap. Hold up, we're on the clock again. You know what? This is slightly early, and it isn't my favorite, but I'm not an Antonio Gibson guy. I am so on Josh Jacobs. We have our share of Jerry Jeudy. I'm going to double down here. This is what I was going to say a few seconds ago. I will, speak it into existence here. I have completed the Russell Wilson, Jerry Jeudy stack. Mr. Unlimited is a member of our roster here. So the thought is that I pass on Joe Burrow. He ends up going there at the 6-12. Again, I just didn't think it was the best fit in the world. I am a huge Jerry Jeudy believer here this season. Super bullish on him. At this point, I should just write an article for sizzlefantasy.com where we host our draft guides for this season. Of course, if you use promo code SFS when you sign up for Underdog Fantasy, you can draft with me. We can join leagues together this summer. And as a thank you for using my code, again, SFS, the link is in the description. The information can be found there as well. Or on sizzlefantasy.com, you're going to get access to both my redraft and dynasty draft guides for free through this upcoming Super Bowl. That includes weekly lineup advice. I will help you set your lineups every week. I will provide you analysis and advice whenever you ask me questions in the private messages section of the community Discord server. Check all that stuff out, you guys. It is a great resource, and a lot more of you guys should be taking advantage of that. We've added probably 5, 6, 7 guys to that in the last few days here, and I'd love to have a whole lot more of you guys on those draft guides and accessing the website-wide membership service. So go check that stuff out. There's 3 different ways to get that. Code SFS on Underdog, or 2 other pricing formats, one being a one-shot buy, the other being a monthly membership if you just want to test it out. So check that stuff out, you guys. I won't talk about that for a while because we spent a good minute on a good minute on that there. So we got our stack. Super excited about that. That whole spiel there stemmed off of me saying I should just write an article about Jerry Jeudy for how much I just talk at nonstop about him this year. The guy just makes me smile, man. He's a freaking beast. He's a damn good route runner. He's a player who I think separates at such a high level, is the definition of an alpha receiver. I always want to like compare him to other players in the league that are really good route runners, but he kind of has his own style of doing it. His footwork is so freaking good. He's always been working with Russ all offseason. You constantly see videos of those guys working out together. I don't see a scenario outside of injury where he fails. I think that the situation has just been set up too good for him. And I really believe that. And I think that when you look at the level of prospect he was coming into the league as a former mid-first round pick, a guy who was that dude for the Crimson Tide every single season at Alabama, and now, you know, you're getting into the best quarterback play of your life. That's breakout potential written all over it. So I'm starting to get a little pissed off here with this Chase Edmonds ADP surge. Like, it is totally out of hand now. It is totally gone too far. The fact that his ADP like 2 or 3 weeks ago was in the 10th round, and now he just went in the late 7th. I mean, I saw him go at the 8-6 in yesterday's video. Now he goes here at the 7-12. It's just become a bit excessive. I like this team's RB room for the most part, but I mean, their receiver play is really, really upside based. DJ Moore is going to be really dependent on Baker's emergence and breakout here. Darnell Mooney, I like him a lot. I mean, these are guys I have listed as must-have players at their draft price, but in terms of the role they're playing for your team, that's something important to consider as well. Who is your wide receiver one? It is DJ Moore. I do have him as a high upside wide receiver 2 right now. In my rankings, I believe he's my wide receiver 13. Of course, you get access to that when you own the draft guide or use code SFS on Underdog. But man, Darnell Mooney's a guy I like as well. I mean, these guys have legit top 12 upside. It's just the floor. He's kind of lacking floor at that position group. I tried to address that. We got 2 pieces of floor value. Maybe even Adam Thielen you can consider as a floor piece. At that draft price, I would say it's honestly more upside oriented. Just the fact that you're getting a guy who can finish as a high level wide receiver 2 in nearly the 7th round. So, ooh, baby. Can I get me some Rashad Penny at this turnaround? I would freaking blow a gasket and be super excited. All right, CEH. Don't you dare, man. You already took Jalen Hurts from me once. Ugh. All right. New least favorite player on the board here. F you, buddy. I might just take Ramondre Stevenson after the turnaround here. Actually, wow. I really don't. That's pretty brutal. I really don't like a lot of these players. This would be really gross, but okay, screw you. Wow. This is unbelievable. This is kind of pissing me off. I'm not really sure what I want to do about this now. Okay, so I'm going to take Sky Moore here, dip into that wide receiver class again. What I was going to say is kind of gross, and now I don't mind doing it because I do it with the Seahawks running backs. I'll take Rashad Penny. Next pick, boom, I'll take Ken Walker off the board just because it's kind of a guessing game who's going to be playing in the lineup. I know that whoever it is going to be productive. I was going to take Ramondre, and then on the turnaround, we're back up on the clock. F it. I'm just going to – I mean, do I go James Cook or do I go Ken Walker here? Now, hang on. I'm evaluating the other positions quickly. I'm not a fan of this situation at all. I'm going to go get me a share of James Cook. Hopefully my other running backs do not have, and I probably just opened the door for that. He's going to take Ken Walker here, or at least he should. I hope I didn't put myself in a position. Let's see. We've got a week 9 bye with Javonte. We've got perfect. All right, that played out well. Kind of surprised he didn't go after Ken Walker there. Basically, what I was going to say, sorry, being on the clock back-to-back there kind of gets you a little frazzled there for a second. Essentially, so Ramondre, I thought he was going to fall into my lap because we had that situation there where he goes the pick before me, of course. So I was going to take Damian first, not because I like him more per se, because obviously we're seeing Ramondre Stevenson get these first-team reps, which, again, it's a beat report. It is a It's a fact that he was getting RB1 reps. It is not a fact that he is now the Pats RB1. I was going to take Damian Harris because the ADP is first. Sometimes there's an art to playing the draft board. You have to kind of guess, assume, predict what's going to happen, what other people are going to do. Unfortunately, I do not know the players I'm drafting with today. I wish I did, because then, maybe it'd have some insight into, some extra additional advantages into what's going to happen here. So I was going to take Damian at the 8-11, 9-2. I was going to come back and take Ramondre, assuming that the team on the bend there did not select him. So it didn't work out that way. I was kind of in a pinch between, and wow, Ken Walker's still on the board. His ADP is quite a bit lower, but you'll see every once in a while that a team will just go boom, boom like that and take both of them off the board. But I was going to try and do that. I decided to go James Cook. I'll take the player in the better offense, the player who I think has massive PPR upside. Personally, not a big Devin Singletary guy, not a big Zach Moss guy, even though there was a tweet yesterday that came out from a beat reporter of the Buffalo Bills. I think that's what he was. Not really sure. Not too familiar with the Bills' social media people. But he basically said that it is trending towards Zach Moss. It was Sleeper. It was Sleeper that put this out here. And then I saw someone else retweeted it. They said Zach Moss is trending towards having a role in 2022. And I was really tempted to kind of, retweet that or quote the tweet and be like, hey, having a role as a healthy scratch or what? Because Buddy is definitely the third best running back on that team now. James Cook is not a workhorse running back. That's not what I drafted him to be. He's there to be an upside piece. Again, this is the two-hero RB strategy. We drafted two running backs in the first and second and let that sucker ride here until the ninth, where we're trying to find some upside. So we're just kind of looking to fill in the pieces. The other reason, I was going to talk about this earlier, that I hate drafting Christian McCaffrey is because I feel like he doesn't really have a true handcuff. I can't draft one player, because of the fact that he makes me, I don't want to go through and edit out an expletive, so I'm not going to say that. The reason that he makes me soil my pants, we'll put it that way, is because, in the event he gets hurt, I can be caught with my pants down and be totally screwed trying to clean up that mess, because you've got a situation where Deontay Foreman and Chuba Hubbard are kind of splitting that opportunity. Chuba is going to get some of that first and second down change of pace work, in my opinion, but he sucks in short yardage situations. Wow, tongue twister there. He has no power. He can't run people over. He sucks at breaking tackles and has absolute brick hands. So he's not going to be catching passes either. That was another thing that was frustrating last year, is I handcuffed CMC in my leagues with Chuba, and then he'd get little swing passes and literally trying to clap the ball. What are you doing? And then you've got Deontay Foreman coming in, who is clearly the more valuable piece on the goal line, and the guy who should be seeing more run and more work in that area of things. So for me, that's kind of a sucky thing. Melvin Gordon did go off the table there at the 9-8. I suppose I could have cuffed him if I wanted to. I feel that James Cook has more standalone value. You can make the case the opposite direction of kind of what I'm hoping for with that Javonte situation, where somehow Melvin finds himself out of touching the football, out of that opportunity load. But I think the choice here is simple. It has to be Dameon Pierce. All right, go ahead and take Alexander Madison, the most expensive handcuff in fantasy. Have fun with that. I'll take Dameon Pierce here, a guy who I think has league-winning potential down the stretch. Once we get to this point in the draft, I don't care as much about ADP and draft price as much as I do just going after your guys. If there's someone you're really confident in, really bullish in, and you are drafting them within the same round, or like me, you're on the turnaround and have an opportunity to draft those said players, I'm going to do something that I usually don't do here, I think. Let me check my bye weeks situation here. Oh, frick you. Week 9. I can't do that to myself. All right, I was going to go Jalen Tolbert, but that would be a third week 9 bye week player. So I'm going to, go back at it. I did not miss my pick. Are you kidding me? Okay. Screw you, Underdog. So they have that feature on the phone where you can swipe to the right and it drafts the player, and I like swiped it and it only went halfway across the screen. I was trying to draft Christian Watson. Instead, I get his quarterback, Aaron Rodgers, who should be pretty dang good. So, I mean, I've got myself locked up a good QB2, I guess, but I was going for some more receiver depth and upside there. What I wanted was Jalen Tolbert, though, because now you've got a situation where James Washington, I really need to adjust like my microphone or my setup or something. I just feel like I'm not centered on the camera. You guys can't really see because I'm in the virtual background right now with the draft behind me, but it was bothering me because I have like kind of a preview thing sticking off the side. I'm not a camera expert. I don't know what it's called, but it sticks out the side of my camera so I can see myself and what I'm doing. So basically what was happening is that was bothering me though, because I was like halfway out of the picture. Anyways, hopefully that was in the corner of your guys' screen or something. Again, not really sure how that looked. Oof, buddy, sorry. I hate Reed Miller. I absolutely loved your team at the start, but you just drafted a player with a torn ACL. That sucks. I am sorry. Rip. Okay. Let's have a moment of silence for Reed. I just, I had my blunder getting auto-picked there. I've leveled the playing fields with who I've already stated is my largest competitor with his drafting so far today. Moment of silence for Reed for letting me catch back up to him in this draft. Thank you. So what this comes back to here is that I wanted Jalen Tolbert. You've got no James Washington. You've got Michael Gallup trying to come back from an ACL. You've got CeeDee Lamb, who might just lead the NFL in targets this year. Who got CeeDee Lamb in this league? There goes C-Watt there at the 11-10. 2-2. Najee, Cortland. Yeah, it's a gross team, man. You really did yourself dirty on that one. Why is this a gross team, you might ask? I am a Judy guy over Sutton, Again, not really sure why Cortland goes above of Jerry Judy, especially when you compare them up against each other in those 8 games they played together last season. J.K. Dobbins, for me, as your RB3 is fine. As your RB2 is risky. This is a player that doesn't catch many footballs. We have not seen him in a lead back role at any time of his NFL career. His rookie season is all we have on record right now. And aside from that, he is not a workhorse. Baltimore will not deploy him in a workhorse fashion. That is not what he is. You have guys like Gus Edwards that are in that offense to do specific roles and tasks. Tyler Beatty, a rookie, who I think has a nice niche role in that offensive system as well. Who else did they just bring in? Mike Davis from the Atlanta Falcons is now a Baltimore Raven. We'll see if he makes the roster or not, but hey, Big Bowling Ball Mike might find himself out there and on the field. So that's a bit risky for me. And then a double down on another risky player in Elijah Mitchell, who, yes, I know some of you guys absolutely love this kid. I mean, he was a very high-level producing RB in terms of fantasy points per game scored, but he had less than a 5% target share of that offense in San Francisco. I don't like running backs that don't catch the football too much. And he's also a guy who missed 6 games in his rookie season. The team comes out and drafts a bigger running back, a guy who I personally believe is what they wanted Trey Sermon to be, but what he failed to do so last season. That being Tyron Davis-Price, who, if I get the opportunity, I will be licking my chops and gobbling up a share of him today. That is a situation I'm very interested as well. Just to point this out, Deshaun Watson won at the 12-2 to see how his draft value kind of evolves here now that we have a rough estimate of what that suspension timeline is going to be. Back to what I was talking about, though, with Elijah Mitchell, I really had to focus my entire brain to really remember what I was talking about while I made that little offbeat comment there. So I had this worry that if Mitchell misses games and if TDP gets involved very often, things could get ugly for his fantasy outlook, and he could easily become one of those fantasy bust candidates for this year. Again, not contributing too much in the passing game and not being somebody that I think has his job on lock for this year. So Jacoby Myers, if he ends up doodling his way down over to me, I wouldn't hate it. Jameson Williams, somebody that I would also be very interested here with this next pick. I think that he, as an explosive athlete, can bring a lot to the table down the stretch. I love the ceiling he would provide, not prevent, for this team. There he goes. The reason I brought him up is because I was assuming Jacoby would get picked before him, just based off of ADP again. Jacoby Myers, though, I'm excited to watch Mac Jones this season. I really am. Jacoby's not a super high ceiling guy, not someone that's going to be a big touchdown guy, but I do think you can just make the case again that he might just kind of be the steady Eddie, nice flex value, high floor player that Mac Jones trusts with the football. This is a guy who is really good at reading zone coverage. He's not an awesome man-to-man beater. Again, doesn't have elite traits or elite speed, but I just like what he brings to the table. He is a nice football player, and that makes me excited about him to an extent. I haven't drafted him in a long time here. Do I really want to get... It would be such a reach at this point to get Tyron Davis-Price, but at this point, he is so much more one of those players who I would classify as my guy. A 12th round pick doesn't seem great here, but I'm kind of afraid that I may miss out on him. I'm gonna just go for it with Jacoby. We missed out on our last receiver with our last pick. I'll eat crow here. If on the bend I miss out on TDP, it's already such a large draft reach. I will be drafting him over players like Michael Carter and Kenneth Gainwell. I just think there's a legit shot that Tyron Davis-Price does something noteworthy this year. And that to me is exciting, and that to me is why we are drafting him here today. A quick note, we are also drafting him as my RB5. So keep that in mind here. Pat Freiermuth is really interesting stuff. I've been kind of reading into some different draft board reactions to this Deshaun Watson situation. And Pat Freiermuth, it was kind of talked about that it's likely that Njoku would settle in right behind Pat. He actually goes a couple picks before him today. David Njoku was one of my favorite sleeper candidates for this season. Earlier, when his draft price was very low, I actually got probably 5-6 shares of him early on this offseason. Now, the rest of my team probably wasn't perfect just because of how the board evolves. So those leagues are always fun to kind of look at and just see kind of the atrocity that happened from early season drafting. Even so, look at your teams. You should take snapshots of your team week 1 versus your lineup week 18 or 17, whenever you wrap up your leagues. They're a lot different. A lot of the teams that win the chips are the teams that are active on the waiver wire, picking up those valuable players, making intuitive trades, doing big brain things, baby, that win you those titles. So you can't win on draft day. You can certainly lose on draft day. I definitely didn't come up with that saying. I probably heard it somewhere. Couldn't really tell you. Oh, baby, I love to see that Sleeper has updated Robbie Anderson's name to Robbie instead of Robby. Did this man just disappear into the ether? Where is he? He was at the top of my screen. I'm not drafting Robbie Anderson at all. Just something I noticed. We do need a tight end. We actually need a tight end quite bad. Let's see. We've got. We're chilling here. I got 5 picks to address tight end twice. This lineup I feel very, very good with. Let's actually take a peek at the lineup right now. Wide receivers, we go T. Higgins, Jerry Jeudy, Deontay Johnson, Adam Thielen, Sky Moore, Jacoby Myers. I love that group based off of how we had to start today's video. I will say I definitely prefer this team as opposed to the team that I drafted yesterday from the same draft position. I will pull that group up for you guys. I can actually probably pull it up mid-draft here. I just think things turned out better. Let's just say that. I feel more comfortable in the running backs I selected today. I think my RB2 is definitely a step above what it was in the last video. I forget who my RB2 even was in that video. I don't want to totally spoil it for you guys because obviously I want you guys to go check that video out and gain whatever information you can from it. It was still a good video. But I didn't love how I approached it. I've drafted from the second overall pick a good handful of times this offseason and this summer, especially in these paid formats. And at the end of the day, okay, it was Cam Akers was my RB2, which is a bit troubling. But then I did also address that position with Kareem Hunt. which gives me some more assurance there. I think he's kind of a value at his draft price. Not a league winner, but definitely someone that I think is undervalued right now. I went Christian McCaffrey, Cam Akers, Kareem Hunt, and then it gets kind of sketch. I did address Darrell Henderson to get that cuff for Cam Akers, Marlon Mack to hopefully be an early season starter, Sony Michel, and Isaiah Spiller. Not the end of the world, not a terrible group, but I do think that that could have been a little better. The wide receivers especially, I don't love how I constructed this group. We did draft Deontay Johnson in both videos. The ADP just fits there. Mike Williams was my RB1, or excuse me, my wide receiver 1 instead of T. Higgins. I think T is just a lot more of a sturdy option. Allen Lazard, Drake London, Christian Watson, Jalen Tolbert. Don't love having 2 Packers there, especially in a wide receiver room with just 6 names in it. That is troubling to me. Of those 6 names, 3 of them are rookies. So you're praying on a breakout, praying for a breakout. Did get Mark Andrews, did get David Njoku. Quarterback is Matt Stafford, but again, certainly not a perfect draft for us there. I might just tinker around one more time here. Frick it. Let's do it. I'm going to draft Jamison Crowder. Van Jefferson, was it a hand injury he just suffered, so he's going to be out for a little bit. Love me some Jamison Crowder in the opportunity that is provided with him being the slot option. That Cole Beasley role is highly underrated with the amount of targets you can see there. I will take Robert Tonyan here of the Green Bay Packers as my tight end 1. It's gross to some of you. To me, it's an opportunity. It's an opportunity to reclaim some of that touchdown totals from the 2020 season. He is coming off an ACL injury. We will be addressing this position again. Austin Hooper is a name I think is sneaky and I really like. Hayden Hurst is a name that I think can be decent there. Higbee's okay. Has some potential. Obviously has week-to-week upside just being in that offense. Noah Fant, actually, just being a safety blanket might be a valuable role. Not my favorite pick again, but someone worth contemplating. So yeah, didn't love how yesterday's team turned out. At the end of the day, it was fine, but I don't think that team's winning the league. I'll be happy to make my money back from that roster. So that's kind of that situation for y'all. Let's see. Let's pop that board back up for you guys. If you're enjoying today's video, again, as always, make sure to drop down and leave a like on today's episode. It helps out the channel a ton. If you guys have any questions about what you're seeing today, my thought process, you want me to elaborate further on something, let me know. I'm here to be an interactive and resourceful person here in the fantasy community for you guys to help you dominate your leagues this year. I say it over and over and over again. If you're new to the channel here, click that subscribe button. We'd love to have you come along for the ride this year. And again, I want to make myself accessible to you so I can help you win that league this year, or at least become a better fantasy player. But hopefully, if you become a better fantasy player, that means you're winning yourself some trophies. So we'll stack them on top of one another. We'll drink some champagne out of the top after the season concludes and have ourselves our own little mini Super Bowl, if you will. So I can't wait for football season, you guys. Oh my Lord, what have I done? I had an itch and I ran my hands through my hair, and then I looked up and it looked like Albert Einstein. You guys can rewind the video and freeze the frame to see. I literally looked like a clown. And now I'm making a clown of myself by making a big deal about my hair in a video. That's how it goes here on YouTube, you guys. Can't take yourself too seriously. If you take yourself too seriously, that's how you become a miserable, butthurt individual. Live light, baby. I keep pulling over the news or whatever this is. What is this over here? Top stories, work schedules, sleeping analytics. I probably sleep more than I should. Baker goes with the 16-1. We're getting some polarizing reports about Baker Mayfield, if I must say. Baker, as expected, I mean, he was late to camp. He didn't really arrive on time. He didn't have the same fair amount of preparation that Sam Darnold did, but he was atrocious. Threw some really bad picks first couple of practice sessions. Romeo Doubs, man, he is going too freaking early. Now, if he hits, It's awesome. But 14-2, I mean, I guess, all right, maybe I overreacted. Van Jefferson, again, I like him, but he just got hurt. Corey Davis, I'm not super confident in. KJ Hamler should see a spike in draft price. Marvin Jones is kind of like, he'll probably be viable in the flex this year, but he's old, so you don't really know. Yeah, this training camp hype, though, is really taken off for Romeo Doubs. I'm a Packer fan, by the way. Me saying the 14-2 is too high. And, again, it's probably not. But now that you've got Sammy, Allen Lazard, you've got 4 receivers, essentially, being drafted at relevant territory for Green Bay, and you're actually seeing Christian Watson's draft stock kind of fall off here because he is not practicing, because he's been injured to an extent. Nothing serious or significant, but it's caused his value to dump a little bit. What did he go in the late 11th round, right? 11-10, I think is what it was. Yep. So not too much separation there. In the grand scheme of things, Sammy Watkins goes at the 16-4. And then you've got Allen Lazard in there as well, who is the first guy of them all to go off. I am on the clock here, and I am not even in the Underdog app right now. Do I go Hayden Hurst here? I am really ticking down. I could go the sneaky pick here and take Will Fuller. 7 seconds, 5, 4, 3. I'm just going to go Hayden Hurst and fill out that tight end spot so I don't have to worry about it. Here. We got another pick coming up. Regroup. I might take my third QB here. I might go Jared Goff. Will Fuller could have a nice role at the team with some nice upside. For me personally, how many receivers do I have? Let's pop that down for a sec. 1, 2, 3. Okay, already more receivers than I had in the last video. And honestly, I am totally fine taking another receiver. Well, I got 1 pick left, so yeah, that can be addressed with this final selection here. 3 quarterbacks is kind of something that I'm going to start doing here a little bit more frequently, just to try and set myself apart, give myself some more ceiling. I really like Jared Goff as a ball distributor, and I think he gets kind of a bad rap for the career end that he had with the Rams. That was totally a coaching mismatch from Bill Belichick to Sean McVay in that Rams Super Bowl, and teams adjusted to their scheme. They adjusted to their offense, and they were never the same after that. And that's not Jared Goff's fault. It was not a matter of execution. I went back and watched the film. The Patriots played a 6-1 defense, and they basically plugged every single hole in the run game. For those of you guys that aren't total football nerds, this might not interest you as much as it does me, but they plugged all the gaps in the run game. They did not penetrate the offensive line. They simply sat and held their gap, and as soon as the running back picked a hole, they would shed, make the tackle. Your run game's gone. Guess what happens when your run game's gone? Can't run play action pass anymore. And when you're running a 6-1 front with 1 true linebacker to fill the gap and to, obviously kind of be that insurance blanket if he breaks through the first, that he being the running back, breaks through the first level of defense, you've got all these other players. You've got a 6-1 defense again. So you've got 4 men, 6-1 is 7, the remaining 4 in the secondary to drop back into quarter zone coverage. And when they do that, they take away the deep play action game. They're able to pick up man crossers coming across the field, and they were able to take away a ton of what the Rams did offensively that season. They also, mind you, did not have Cooper Kupp at that point in time. Cooper Kupp had torn his ACL that year. So it was Robert Woods getting Stephon Gilmore in coverage every play, a.k.a. the Defensive Player of the Year, and then they would double whoever it was, Brandon Cooks. No, excuse me. I said that wrong. They put Gilmore on Brandon Cooks, who was a Ram at this point in time, and they would double Robert Woods every play. And then you've got one high guy to take off anything that crosses his face. Offense shut down. Rams held to 3 points. Sean McVay looks like a fool. And the second time in Bill Belichick's career that he totally flabbergasted the Rams organization in a Super Bowl. So for me, it ain't a Jared Goff thing as much as it was a Bill Belichick thing. Here we go. Winding down today's video. There goes David Bell and Devin Duvernay, 2 boys I like drafting this year. Might be Sony Michel time. Might just say to heck with it and throw another dart at the running back board here. Maybe I go 3 tight ends today as well. That'd be kind of gross, but I might do it. Depends if Kyle Rudolph is there or not. I would really hate to leave Sony Michel hanging. I think I only got 5 running backs. Yep, only 5. I just remembered Tyron Davis-Price is my 5th RB off the board. Hopefully you guys enjoyed today's video. If you did, let me know in the comment section below. Let me know what kind of stuff you want to see me come out with next. I'm having an absolute blast getting you guys prepped for this fantasy football season. That's going to be it's going to be tough for me to say no to Sony Michel here if he's not available. I would love to draft Kyle Rudolph as a 3rd tight end to give me even more of a touchdown ceiling on a week-to-week basis. I mean, I could totally have just stinker games at the tight end spot this year. We'll see what happens, man. If only this was 19 rounds, this would have played out just beautifully. Because in theory, Rudolph was brought in to be like a homeless man's out of his prime Rob Gronkowski. Just a big body red zone threat. Okay. I'm sorry, Kyle. I really wanted you. I really did. But I can't pass on Sony there at the 18-11. Draft capital is too good for me. And I ultimately just couldn't make that sacrifice. Had I played my cards a little differently, maybe it could have played out that way. But to be honest, I'm very happy with how things turned out today. So another draft in the books for us here at SFS. If you guys enjoyed, make sure to like and subscribe to the channel here. If you're sticking around with me this long in the video, chances are you're a pretty dang invested fantasy player. If that's the case, check out sizzlefantasy.com. Sizzlefantasy.com. Kind of said that fast there. To get an extra upper hand in your leagues this season, we've got the draft guides for redraft and dynasty leagues. Remember, code SFS when you deposit $10 or more on Underdog Fantasy is going to get you double your money and those draft guides for free. Otherwise, we've got 2 other options to get access to that stuff. We've got articles on there. We've got our sleepers, busts, must-own players, our rankings, again, redraft and dynasty. 300 freaking player profiles for my top 300 players in fantasy this year. It's actually more than that when you consider the rookies on that page that are not. I have my top 60 rookie profiles completed. Some of those top 60 rookies, like half of them, are not on that top 300s list just because some of those guys aren't going to see the field. So there is a whole lot of content in that draft guide, a ton of stuff for you guys to take advantage of. And of course, those draft guides come with in-season lineup advice as well. So make sure to take advantage of that stuff. Quick team recap here before we hop on out of today's episode. And I will see you guys tomorrow, of course. Or if you want to just keep watching some SFS videos here, we've got playlists of our mock drafts and of all 80 plus fantasy football videos we have for the season already posted. It's a whole lot of stuff. Russ Wilson, Aaron Rodgers, Jared Goff. Those are your top 3 quarterbacks for this team. Russell Wilson, of course, we've got that stack with Jerry Jeudy, my guy for 2022 fantasy football. Aaron Rodgers, a solid second quarterback, has some really eye-popping stats, averaging over 24 fantasy points per game without Javonte Adams in the lineup since 2016. Jared Goff, we did him piece with his ball distribution and Belichick analysis there. Christian McCaffrey and Javonte Williams, a stack I really, really like with my RB1 and RB2s. If you're going to take CMC, Javonte is that guy I'm crossing my fingers for and really hoping falls to me because of that safe floor, but still the ability to, if CMC flops, gets injured, and Javonte hits his head on the goalpost and his ceiling, it almost replaces one with the other. Then if James Cook, Dameon Pierce, Sony Michel, Tyron Davis-Price can emerge into those roles requisite with their teams, that gives you some opportunity there, of course, for some league-winning value. T. Higgins, Jerry Jeudy, Deontay Johnson, Adam Thielen, Sky Moore, Jacoby Myers, and Jamison Crowder, a wide receiver unit I am very, very happy with here. T. Higgins, for me, a high floor wide receiver 1. Doesn't have the same ceiling as some other guys in that wide receiver 1 territory, but very, very dependable. Jerry Jeudy, I think, has a higher ceiling than T. Higgins does this year. Deontay Johnson has been a target magnet, 28.5% of the Steelers' target share last season. Adam Thielen, kind of the forgotten toy in the bin. He's been at the bottom of the pile for a while now, but he's waiting to be come out here and played with again in 2022. He's sitting there wondering, hey, why aren't you drafting me? I score touchdowns left and right. I get a lot of receptions. I do my job. Sky Moore, opportunity. There's reports he might be lining up in the backfield, doing some dynamic playmaking things for this offense. That's what we love to hear. Jacoby Myers, flex piece, question mark. Just a high floor guy in terms of a high floor for a flex player. That is not going to score a bunch of touchdowns, not going to make a bunch of big plays, but does have the opportunity to be the leader in target share for New England's offense. Jamison Crowder here, another guy. That Cole Beasley role gets slept on. There are double-digit games in store for him this season in terms of target production. And then Robert Tonyan and Hayden Hurst, a weak tight end group, a very weak tight end group actually, but I'm okay with it. I'm fine with how things turned out there. So those are our 18 picks for today. Of course, if you enjoyed today's video, one more time, drop down, click that like button, subscribe to the channel, and I will see you next time. Check out some of the videos that are about to pop on your screen here. YouTube thinks you should watch them next. Peace out.